And finally, after what, 4 or 5 days in Fort Worth, Texas, NASCAR has finally capped off the 8th race in the 2020 NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, and a NASCAR veteran Kyle Busch finally breaks his long-awaited winless streak to win at Texas for the 4th time in his career and breaks a nearly 1-year streak that dates back to his championship win at Miami in 2019. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jack Krause to another episode of MDK Racing Victory Stop as we fill you in with everything that took place in this year's the 2020 Auto Trader Echo Park Automotive 500. Probably butchered that name from the Texas Motor Speedway. Now, like I said, it was a long race. This race started on Sunday and ended tonight on Wednesday. Now, if there's anyone out there that didn't watch Sunday's, now just to fill you in with everything that took place on Sunday, nothing much happened, but still. Before the race, Martinsville Jr., who was already below the cut line, I think minus 31 at the time, he failed post-race inspection twice, so he had to go to the back of the field. He lost his crew chief, and on top of that, he lost 20 driver points, so he entered into that race minus 51, which is around must-win situation. Kevin Harvick, who led the first 29 laps of that race, he started on pole, but then on the 29th lap, coming off of turn number 2, Harvick, his car just did not turn, goes up, slams the outside wall with which we would know later on in the race would end up being significant damage. At first, we all thought, it's not that big of a deal. He probably will recover, and he did at first, but later on in the race on Wednesday, I think we had a feeling that the damage that he suffered to the right side of his car was much more severe than we thought. But then we all know what happened. After that, mist started to come onto the racetrack, and it ended up being, and I have it written down here, 72-hour, 32 minutes, I think 34-second rain delay. That's how long it was. It was just mist. It was just very misty. The mist would not go away. Finally, it did on Wednesday, and the playoff driver stood as Logano was 4th, Truex 5th, Chase Elliott in 6th, Keselowski 9th, Kurt Busch in 14th, Denny Hamlin 15th, Alex Bowman 18th, and Kevin Harvick in 36th. That is what the playoff grid, or at least where they were positioned on lap 52 once we got back to green. So typical NASCAR, once you are settled in for a long rain delay, as soon as we go back green, a caution comes out. 2 laps into it, Matt Kenseth gets loose off of 4, slides up right in front of Hamlin, gets bumped by Hamlin, then slides right down in front of Bubba Wallace, who has nowhere to go, and slams the outside wall pretty hard on the front straightaway, clips the back end of the 10 car of Eric Almirola. Both cars were destroyed. Bubba's car was destroyed by the wall. Kenseth's car was destroyed by the grass. And both drivers' days were done before even 5 laps. I mean, imagine 52 laps, you wait 4 days to finally get back in the car just to then get taken out 2 laps into it. Also mentioned Hamlin suffered damage to the front nose of his car. Again, it looked like at first it wasn't that big of a deal, but later on we would realize that, okay, it's much more serious than we thought. There were holes in the grill of his car, so of course the team tried to patch it up with tape. Let's just say Hamlin had a rough day, but luckily because of those playoff points that he earned at the start of the season, as well as Kevin Harvick, they were better off than some other drivers heading into Martinsville. It's kind of funny. Lap 60, and already Hamlin and Harvick were, I don't want to say mortal, but let's just say they were, okay, we cannot even put them in the conversation as possibility not making it. I know it was probably unlikely, but still, before Texas, you were like automatic lock in. After that lap 60 incident, or after 60 laps, you could start to think, okay, maybe if something crazy could happen, we could put Harvick or Hamlin in that conversation of fighting to stay in the top 4. Nothing happened after that in stage 1, except for a little incident with 5 laps to go. Clint Boyer made a ballsy block on Martinsville Jr. for no reason, entering turns 3 and 4. Nothing happened. Everything got by unscathed. Clint Boyer will go on to win stage 1. Martinsville Jr. in 2nd. Jones, Blaney, and Johnson rounds out the top 5. Byron in 6th. Elliott 7th. Logano 8th. Austin Dillon 9th. And Matt DiBenedetto rounds out the top 10. So when stage 2 began, it was Alex Bowman out in front. And Bowman in playoff mode has been different than Bowman in the regular season. We have seen him step up to the plate. We have seen him perform a lot more, be out in front a lot more. And this race was one of those examples. As soon as he got out in front, he managed to hold on to that lead. I believe led 29 or 28 laps in that entire race. Because as soon as he got shoveled back out of the lead due to a pit stop cycle, or at least a pit stop issue where he had to stop leaving pit road due to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. coming in, he lost the lead and was nowhere to be found after that. It seemed like his car was really good once it got out in front. But once it was in the middle of the pack, His car just went to jank. But yeah, after that pit stop came out and Bowman had his issues, yeah, then Ryan Blaney out in front, Kyle Busch in 4th place, Harvick back in the top 10 in 6th place, Austin Dillon, who won at Texas earlier in July, in 5th, and John Hunter Nemechek out of nowhere in the top 10 in 9th position. There were a lot of new drivers, or at least unusual drivers, inside the top 10. I didn't expect Harvick to be back in the top 10 so quickly. Kyle Busch, who, again, when you take a look at how bad his 2020 season has been, for some reason, I was still kind of surprised to see him be anywhere near the top 5. John Hunter Nemechek, I mean, that's a whole nother story, him in Front Row Motorsports. And Austin Dillon, yes, he won at Texas, but still, it's like, it's just kind of a surprise to see all of them in the top 10. So pit stops took place near the end of Stage 2. Busch ends up winning Stage 2, but that was only due to Martin Truex Jr. sputtering right after he crossed the start-finish line with just a handful of laps to go, or around before pit stops took place, because I believe he either ran out of fuel and was close to running out of fuel. Car sputtered. He flipped the switch on for the reserve fuel, but that was way after Kyle Busch got by him. So Busch won Stage 2. Truex in 2nd. Bowman 3rd. Keselowski 4th. His teammate Blaney in 5th. Christopher Bell in 6th place. We're going to talk about him a little bit later. He had a really good car in this race. 7th, Austin Dillon. 8th, Clint Bowyer. 9th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And Kevin Harvick in the top 10. Now, Harvick rebounded in the top 10, actually, because he pitted a lot earlier for 4 fresh tires. Did not work. He made little to zero gains on those 4 fresh tires. And on top of that, apparently there was no cording on that last pit stop on Harvick's car, so it caused a massive vibration, so bad that he couldn't really even see straight. It was that bad the vibration was. And Chase Elliott, a driver who needed to have a good run in this race, was only -8 to Brad Keselowski entering this race. He had a tire go down and was forced to pit during pit stop, so he had to go a lap down, got sent to the back of the field, and it was just something that Chase Elliott did not need, especially when you consider the fact that Keselowski, at least in my opinion, Elliott was able to hang with Keselowski. In my opinion, I even thought possibly Elliott had a faster car, so to see Elliott have this problem was massive to Elliott to run for the championship, and now he's going to have a much steeper hill to climb next weekend at Martinsville. So Stage 3, you can basically sum up Stage 3 as this: Kyle Busch, Truex, and fuel. So Kyle Busch and Clint Bowyer, they started off 1st and 2nd, they took off. Kevin Harvick, on the other hand, when we thought he had that problem with the right side of his car fixed up, apparently it wasn't, because he started falling back big time. Outside the top 20 even, car was reportedly being plowing tight all over the place. He had no control over his race car. But again, that's where the regular season comes in. He earned all those bonus points. And even though he finished outside the top 20, he still was able to have those bonus, or at least the playoff points, to help him at least give him a 1 race buffer. So that was his mulligan. So now you have Kyle Busch. He's on in front and he's driving away from Clint Bowyer. However, he has reported a problem. He said he has a vibration in his car, and on top of that, he has to try and save fuel because he pitted about 12 laps before anyone else did on that last pit stop. Clint Bowyer, he pitted 3 laps earlier than Kyle Busch on lap 199. And so because of that, he runs out of fuel a lot earlier than anyone else with 77 laps to go and forfeits the 2nd position. And so now Busch, he's all by himself in fuel saving mode. He has to save around 8 to 10 laps in order to get in that pit window, which was around 66 laps to go. If he could get to that pit stop window, he can then pit with everyone else for fuel or tires. However, Truex, he's on his tail. He's got fresh tires and full fuel, but he can't run him down because Busch is so far ahead that Truex cannot get a drafting help. Again, we're on a mile and a half track and we're talking about drafting help. Oh god, this package is unbelievable. So Busch is able to successfully stretch his fuel up until 66 laps to go. When he pits, Truex takes over. Behind him is Christopher Bell. Bell, through the field, charging, passing cars, is now in position to not only have a good finish, but is in position to win. He was even tracking down Truex for the race lead. But then when pit stop cycle came through and everything was back to normal, Busch, instead of having about a 1 to 2 second lead, now has a 6 to 7 second lead ahead of Truex and Bell. Bowyer gets by Busch because Bowyer pitted before anyone else, so obviously he's going to have fresher tires. And let's be honest, Bowyer pitting so early, we knew there was no way he was going to make it to the end of the race. So Busch just let Bowyer go. He was not worried about Bowyer. Busch was worried about Truex. And the reason why he's worrying about that is because when Bowyer passed Busch, Busch was able to hold his lead for a little bit. He was able to hold a good, decent 5 to 6 second lead. But then Bell and Truex started to chip away at Busch's lead because Busch is also still trying to save fuel. So he's trying to save fuel, but at the same time, he has to run fast enough so that Truex and Bell do not catch him. And again, Truex and Bell do not have to worry about fuel. So you have to try and save fuel, but you have to still have to run fast enough in order for Truex and Bell to not catch you. It's a very, very difficult position, but it's Kyle Busch and Adam Stevens. They're both veterans in the Cup Series. They know how to get the job done. Bowyer pissed with 23 laps to go. That gives the lead back to Kyle Busch, who now is just within a second from Truex and Bell. But like I said, Busch is a veteran. He knows how to get the job done, and so does Adam Stevens. Brilliant calls by both of them for Busch for being able to maintain that lead or that buffer between him and Truex and keeping the car out in front. Great calls by Adam Stevens with pit stops and fuels and all that stuff, because that got them their very first win of 2020 and their first win since Miami 2019 when they won the championship. Now let's take a look at the unofficial results. So Kyle Busch wins. Martin Truex Jr. finishes in second. Third is Christopher Bell. Fourth is Ryan Blaney. A quiet day for that number 12 team. Fifth is Alex Bowman. Again, I felt like he had a really fast car. Had he not been stuck in the middle of the pack, if he was out in front, easily, I would have thought he could have been a race-winning car. Keselowski 6th, Kurt Busch 7th, and Matt DiBenedetto in 8th place. 9th is Denny Hamlin, which is kind of a nice rebound for that 11 team, considering the fact that since lap 60, when they had an incident with Matt Kenseth, they were all, the entire race, they're just trying to catch up to the field, fixing their car at the same time. So a 9th place finish is still pretty good for that 11th team. Logano in 10th, doesn't matter. He's already going to Phoenix. 11th is Austin Dillon. 12th is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 13th is William Byron. 14th and 15th are rookies. Tyler Reddick, Cole Custer, I should say, and Tyler Reddick. Harvick, 16th place. Tough break for that number 4 team. 17th is Clinton Bowyer, his teammate. Tough break for Bowyer because he also had a really fast race car, led I think the second most laps in that race with 89. Priest in 18th, 19th and Newman, and Chase Elliott in 20th was not able to rebound from that tire incident around or near the end of stage 2, I believe that incident was, when his tire went down. Tough break for the 9 team. They really needed just a solid day to be within striking distance of making it into the final 4. And then some notables. Eric Jones 21st. I don't know what happened with him. I just looked at the results. All of a sudden I see Jones 21st. I'm like, where did that come from? So I guess tough break for them. 22nd is John Hunter Nemechek. 23rd is Eric Almirola. He apparently was not able to recover from that incident with Matt Kenseth and Bubba Wallace. 27th is Daniel Suarez. 34th, I should say, Chris Buescher. He had a crash on Sunday before that whole missed incident took place. 38th, Bubba Wallace, and 39th, Matt Kenseth. And now let's take a look at the playoff grid entering Martinsville. The standings in terms of the order remains the same. Harvick still the first one without a win with plus 42. Hamlin in third, plus 27. Keselowski now, instead of plus 8, it is now plus 25 over Hendrick teammates Alex Bowman and Chase Elliott. They are tied for 6th. Martin Truex Jr. minus 36 and Kurt Busch minus 81. He's basically in a must-win situation now at this point. And tough break for Truex, especially when we consider the fact that he lost 20 points. He was minus 51. Originally, he was minus 31. He's now minus 36. If he didn't have that 20-point penalty and we take his second place finish, he would have been around minus 6, minus 8 behind the cut line. Now he's minus 36. That's a huge, that's a tough pill to swallow for Truex and for Truex fans when you consider the fact that we could have been minus 6 and minus 8. Now we're minus 6. He's not in a must-win situation, but when you consider the fact that the people that he has to race against with, like Bowman and Elliott and Keselowski and Team Penske, they know how to run well on the short tracks. Because of that, I have Bowman, Elliott, Truex, and Kurt Busch. I feel like all of them need to win a race if they want to get into the championship 4. I feel like Hamlin and Harvick, they're going to be, as long as they don't have any incidents, they should be safe. Keselowski, we know how good he can run on the short tracks. Won at Richmond earlier in the year. I think a win is what's going to need to happen for any of the bottom 4 to make it to Phoenix. But as for the race itself, it's your typical Texas race. Not surprised, package sucked. Simple as that. Package was trash. I don't know what else I could tell you. There were many moments throughout the race, or at least near the latter part of stage 3, when that whole Kyle Busch fuel thing was taking place. Christopher Bell had a huge gap behind Martin Truex Jr., erased that, but then couldn't pass Truex because of that dirty air. It wasn't because Truex was so good, because we knew Bell had a much faster car. It was just because Truex had that clean air, I guess, in front of him. So just another reason is reason 1472 on why this package sucks. Again, it was your typical Texas race. Give it about a 4 out of 10. 4 or 5 out of 10. I will say that final stage with Kyle Busch and that fuel thing, that was really good stuff. I like that. That's why I'm giving it a 5. Without it, it would have been a 2 or 3. So, thank you, Fuel, for making this race interesting because I was low-key starting to fall asleep near the beginning of stage 3. I'm not kidding. It was that boring. But regardless, we are done with Texas, finally. But the good news, we got Martinsville next week, the championship finale, or the penultimate championship race, or whatever, the penultimate finale before Phoenix. I can't even speak today. I'm just done with Texas, but I cannot wait for Martinsville next Sunday. We have a whole weekend of racing. We have Xfinity on Saturday. That's going to be a really fun race. Trucks Friday night. Should be a lot of fun next weekend up in Virginia. But that's going to conclude this episode of MDK Racing Victory Stop. Guys, tell me in the comment section down below, what are your thoughts on this race? Did you like it? Did you not? But until next time, my name is Jack Cross from MDK, and I'll see you guys next time.